I loved today's content. Chapter 7 of The Power of One More. One more dream. One more dream, everybody. And so I can't wait to hear what you're taking away from this massive mind shift to get you back to being kids at heart, kids at behavior, maybe even dreaming bigger and moving yourselves forward. So that being said, I'm coming through okay?
Yes.
I love the nods. And Doug, your mic's hot, brother. So since you spoke up, what do you got this morning?
Well, as normal, this book starts out each chapter with a fabulous quote, and you just can't ignore them. They're like the whole chapter in one sentence. So let go of the past and go for the future. Go confidently into the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined. Henry David Thoreau. Apparently, after we grow up a little bit and we get about halfway through school, we forget how to imagine. Or we just don't do it as much. But I love what this first part says, that children are naturally curious. They're the happiest people on the earth, and they're great teachers. Three major things in just the first paragraph that really caught my eye and let me know that this was going to be a chapter full of reshaping mindset, reshaping thinking, and pointing us in a great direction. So there's some, man, I just noticed there were so many like little phrases throughout this chapter. Operate out of their imagination and dreams. Most powerful takeaways of the whole book. Operate out of your imagination, your dreams, and your vision. I mean, these continue to go all the way through the chapter, these little phrases. So watch those as you go through this chapter. What a great chapter.
Well, and I got to lean into total agreement with one thing that I've witnessed time and again, and some in my own life and definitely in others I work with. I do believe that imagination is a muscle, is a skill, and that we're born with it in such strength. And then we've been told over and over again not to do that. And so we've lost that skill. Some of us don't really have that ability with our conscious mind to dream and dream big without the chatter of the drunk monkey telling us all the reasons why not. And rather, go ahead.
There's one more thing I wanted to point out. In the last paragraph before it says a child's lesson for you on 92, it says there's no way you will experience your best life if you try to operate out of your history and the memories of your past. It can't be done. Pause for a minute and let that sink in a bit more. And as I was thinking about this, there's a thing that I refer to as the Greek mindset, which says that all of your past experiences added up make you the person that you are. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. However, I think there's another mindset that it doesn't take into account, and that is that you have a destiny that is actually pulling on you. Some place where you are designed, the person that you are designed and created to be, that is a signal out there beckoning you towards it. And you need both and. You can't operate without your past and the knowledge that you've created and the wisdom that you've gained, but also you cannot operate without that real force that's pulling you towards it. So I thought that was just a tremendous time to say, stop and pause and think.
Well, this chapter is definitely full of nuggets that got many people thinking differently. I see Shara and Dorothy ready to go in that order. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks so much. Doug danced all over. One of the things that just grabbed me was that pause. There are so many nuggets, as you said, but if you look at the top of page 92, reframing your entire mindset is not a subtle action. It requires concentrated effort for an extended period to break pre-existing ingrained thought habits. What an incredible leader to help us see this thought process. Ed Milet has broken through so many ingrained mindsets from a very young age 4. And so when I got to the word pause, I paused and had an incredible reflection over so many things in my life and how I got to where I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because it's not always easy to overcome. But once you've overcome something, giving it, as we've talked about in so many ways, but the pause was so important because it also takes us back to exactly what to say. The impact of those phrases requires a pause and tonality. So as you go through this and the frequency of your dreams just below that, that is tone. It's the tone that you talk to yourself or that you accept from other people. And it's just really empowering to help you to think about where you want to be or to dream about where you want to go.
Well, and to that point, as Celeste dropped in the chat, it's one of the quotes in here about kids, they don't hold on to the past because they don't have one. You guys can choose to be in the same place. Right there on the very first page, the bottom, I just want to reiterate this. The happiest people in life operate out of their imaginations and dreams and not their histories. So although, the up to 4 didn't have a history, we can absolutely choose. And there's lots in here talking about, and I know you guys are going to dig into it deeper, into just letting that go. Your past does not define you. That history doesn't. And you get to define you. And the best place to do that is forward thinking in those imaginations and dreams. And the world is yours. What do you got?
Yeah, the idea of choosing is so powerful. So I have in the past given talks to women's groups about the idea of chasing joy, love it or lose it. And I gave it to one of these groups of women that I know a lot of these women really well. And they're like, yeah, but Anne, you're a happy person. Like that's as easy for you, right? So going back to like the emotions and choosing to like exercise our imagination and choosing to exercise our choice of emotion. And so my whole take around emotion and dreams now, like trying to tie all this together in my own head and in my own heart, is that I had 2 parents who were diagnosed with cancer within 30 days of each other. I had a 2-year-old and I was in a bad marriage, right? It was an uncomfortable marriage for both of us. And so there I am with these 2 parents, this toddler and this bad marriage. And every day I had an audiobook. I had either Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, or Marianne Williamson, Return to Love in my ear for the entire year that my dad was dying. And it changed my whole mindset. And it changed everything because going back to what Shara, I think I'm saying that right. I'm sorry, was saying, right? Like knowing exactly what we need to be saying, like find that thing, find that board of directors, like we talked about yesterday, and let that repeat over and over and over in your head rather than bad news, cranky people. Yeah.
Well, and how brilliant of you that you were going through really difficult, dark times, and you made the conscious choice to be plugging in joy into your world, to be plugging in happy thoughts. So, Dorothy, you're going to be next. Celeste, and then Alicia, I see you as well. Man, it's what is it? Ladies' Day here in Mindset Morning. Come on, boys.
It's a
Dorothy,
hot
what do you got?
chapter. It's a hot chapter. So I acknowledge both the ladies who just spoke. I'm here on that. And I was struck on page 97, the last line. Therapists have long called this reconnecting with your inner child. And some people have called me to task for saying I'm 7 years old as being unrealistic, and I'm not. I'm saying of all the experiences I've had in my entire life, who am I and where do I go back to that person who nobody told me how to be, what to do, what I'm supposed to be. It was just, how did I behave in a situation where none of the other kids could think of fun stuff to do? And so, what did I manifest? Imagination, creativity, and leadership. And I still do that. And I think that's who I really am.
Mhm.
There have been times when that was snuffed down. It's not feminine, but I really don't care. But that child at 7 took over and ran the gang because she wanted to have fun. And that was the only goal. So now I notice when we have a bad market, I say, okay, how are we going to deal with it? It's an automatic response. And I thank God for it. But I'm still that 7-year-old kid. Bring it on.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to play and just letting your stuff go. So, Celeste,
Good morning.
You're up.
Good morning. Page 93, in the section talking about how often do you dream, the second paragraph, it says, think of your past like suitcases filled with cement. As heavy as those bags are, many of us are afraid to put those bags down because carrying them around is all we know. Oh my God, I can't like, that's such a perfect thing. A great analogy, because how many times do you have conversations with people who keep talking about the old stuff? And you're just like, okay, I'm done with that. Let's go on. Let's move. And you know what? It's not that they're not allowed to do that, but you got to limit how long are you staying there. And I have the same thing. You know, I talked about my record of my relationship with my brother. I really need to just let that go. I've talked about it enough. Nobody needs to hear it again. And my life is in my hands. I get to choose who I hang out with, what I'm doing, and even all the things that I'm not doing. I mean, I guess that's part of this conversation is, you know, it's so easy to look back and say it's their fault why I'm where I'm at. And you know what? It doesn't get you anywhere. So why are you doing it? And that's my thought. That's what I got out of it. I absolutely loved just the analogy of the word suitcases filled with cement, because that is really what that is.
And I absolutely love that it put right in clear perspective that we're carrying that and we're holding on tight because it's just what we know.
That's what we
It's
know.
that fear of the unknown that stops people a lot of times from putting down their story. That story is how you've defined yourself. You've defined yourself as a victim with this baggage, and you've gotten something from that, whatever that is. And because that's who you've seen yourself as, that deep definition, the willingness to put it aside, to put it down and let go and no longer blame, as is coming from the bad marriage. I can tell you how many times I've talked to someone and they share all the things the ex did, and that's why they are the way they are, versus just saying, you know what, that was theirs. I made choices in how I reacted. I made choices on how I interacted. And the only thing I can change is me. So let's focus on that piece instead. When you start focusing on you and your DNA in any situation, you get to put that baggage down, because now it's 100% in your control. Alicia, you're up.
Okay, so first of all, I dedicate this chapter to my daughter Zakira because she has big dreams and she's like, nobody is going to ever think that I'm going to reach these. But she lives in her imagination and she's making, like, you can see steps towards her goals. And it's because she lives in her imagination. And so I see all of this in her. So then some of the things I'm looking for actionable things. So like 93 at the bottom, to live a better life, we must consciously choose to operate out of our dream state and not our past. And then let's see, another 95, I use memories, but I will not allow memories to use me. And let's see. Oh yeah, here's something actionable. Also at the bottom of 95, visualize pouring out your past thoughts, see the glass empty, then be intentional by filling the glass with ideas that spring out of your imaginations. I mean, it's just, there's so much. Like, I pretty much highlighted the entire book. But 97 is that talking about using lucid dreams, you know. So when people think that you're crazy, make sure you tell them, no, it's lucid dreams. I'm being intentional about this. So anyway, yeah, that's some of what I pulled from here. There's just so much out of this, and I loved it. Yeah.
Well, let's pop back to 95, Alicia, because you're right there in that meet, and I just want to carry that on because this
Sure.
hit me with what we can do. Making peace with your past is how you empty that glass and create room for the dreams of the future. Translation: no regrets. There's so many times I'm talking to folks, even in this room, and they go back on, gosh, if I had only started this earlier. By the way, what's the number one regret of having an EXP agent? Right?
Not coming to EXP sooner.
And, yeah, not doing it earlier. And at the same time, instead acknowledging that we did it in the right time based on a higher plan and letting that go. You know, letting go that I was in the backyard of a party with Gene Frederick when there were like 800 people in this company. And just smiling, laughing, letting it go. Know that everything happens as it should. And now create room for how you're going to move forward. Justin, brother, I see you're here.
Good morning. Yeah, I've got a few things. This is a great chapter, and a couple of the things that I had highlighted have already been picked off. But on page 92, it starts in bold, I think like the third section down. There's no way you'll experience your best life if you try to operate out of your history or memories of your past. It can't be done. Pause for a moment, let that sink in a bit more. So I did that. I did pause and think on that. Made a little video about it this morning, actually, too. I think most people tend to reflect on the past and they get sucked into the worst shit. Like they find the worst of the past, which that's the probability. Even the possibility of living in the past is you're going to create a copy or a reproduction of the best thing that you had in the past. Reproductions are never as good as the original. And if we're creating by giving our focus or manifesting a copy of the past, even the best past, that cuts off that possibility to have a better future. So that was really impactful for me. I thought it was funny that I had to do like a little like clarification for myself or whatever. I've long held this like weirdness with the word dream. So I wrote on the top of page 93, dreaming equals visualization. And then you get a few more pages in and he says, for you analytical people, they have a problem with the word dream or whatever. So it's kind of cool. Like these things are popping in my brain. And then they show up a few pages later. And then the last thing I wanted to say, I see my guy Josh in here. So this is a kid that works with me on side projects. I just sold him a house, gave him the book. Way to go, man.
Nice. Well, I love that you're dreaming other people's success too, Justin. That's why you're doing that. That you're seeing, you know what, I can dream big for others as well. And one of the fun things on this piece you brought in of the past and the vision of the past, most of us are probably plugging in there the negative past, and that's what we dwell on. Well, the same thing is attempting to live through the positive past. I had a high school reunion this weekend, and there were a couple of folks that, high school was the best life they had up to this point. And so that's what they were hanging on to. Whether it's positive or negative, quote, good or bad, all that judgment stuff, your subconscious has no filter for those things. That's you and your conscious mind applying those labels. We just need to move the subconscious out, whatever the past is, and move it into dreaming our big future and turning it loose on that. And I saw you're hot again.
Yeah,
So come on in and speak up. And Alicia, I don't know if you popped on for a reason or not. Just know I saw it. And so if you are, I'll put you in after Ann. What do you got?
Yeah, so my daughters decided we're moving to Europe, which I think sounds like a better and better idea every minute that we talk about it. And so I'm watching a show called Mediterranean Life, and it's a house hunting show and people buying houses in the Mediterranean. And I'm realizing it never occurred to me that this was a possibility, in spite of the fact that it sort of fits so many things that fit my family and my daughter and my son and our like personal human needs. And last night I was like, what else? Because obviously I'm reading this book. What else am I not noticing? What other opportunities am I just glazing over because that's for somebody else? Somebody else moves to Europe. I don't move to Europe. Like, I live in Colorado. Everybody wants to live in Colorado. What else am I totally ignoring, completely missing, that is the perfect opportunity that if I just said, maybe that.
And how many of those other things are we allowing that history to say, oh, that's for somebody else?
Somebody else.
Somebody else can do that. Somebody else can live that big life. The reality is, if anyone else has done it, you absolutely can. You can follow. In fact, easier if they blazed a new trail, you just have to follow their trail. It's easier for you. And yet all we have to do is get out of our head to make that happen. So, Alicia, did you have something to add? And then Shara, I see you're back too, man. I am loving this.
Yeah, so just a couple of other things where I had seen some actionable things was that recognizing in 94, it talks about recognizing those negative patterns, so if we can recognize them and then stop them and replace them, like he was talking about before, scratching that out and then replacing it with reframing it with something positive. And then on page 100 and 101, remembering, with the lucid dreams, that's completely an intentional act on dreamings, intentional dreaming, and subconscious minds can't tell the difference between reality and an imagined thought. That's why the things we focus on and continually think about eventually manifest in our lives. So, and then he goes on, there's another actionable thing also midway through 100, is taking steps to record and remember the thoughts when you have them. And I know Coach does that. So that a lot of times I'm weighed down by all these thoughts. So I think I'm going to have to start doing that. So I don't have to carry it all the time. I think that's part of my maybe an ADHD thing. And then also on 101, new dreams rewrite your life. So yeah, I'm going to be intentional about that.
So let's talk about this writing it down, or what I have on my note, to dream on paper. This is why journaling is so important. So I've got my journal. This is every morning. This is where gratitudes go. This is where journaling happens in the morning, where I dream on paper. And as we roll into the next chapter is on questions. This is where I'm writing my questions and getting my subconscious to think. It's so interesting how your subconscious works. Because again, as it said in here, no knowledge of night or day, no knowledge of right or wrong, no knowledge of real or unreal. Your subconscious will give you what you ask of it. In fact, on this not having a filter of no, I am challenging you right now. Do not think of a camel. Stop. Do not think of a 2-hump camel. In fact, do not think of a blue 2-hump camel. And every time your subconscious just stuck that visual, bink, 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 it doesn't know the difference. And by the way, how many blue 2-hump camels have you seen in your life? Yeah, your subconscious just created it for you. It has the same ability if you will just let it go on that dream state. So getting it on paper here. And then Alicia, one other nugget. We all have these ideas, I should do this. And then our subconscious holds on to it and it thumbs up our day. So I have this one. What's that say?
Sunday to do.
Anything that pops in my mind on that gets written down. And now my subconscious knows it's written. So it lets it go and I don't have to think about it during the day. Sherry, you were up next, and then Julianne. What do you guys have?
Dang, I'm stealing that someday to do. That's my next action item today. I went back to the pause as Anne was speaking. Especially if we have trauma or old stories that we allow to rule and reign in our current situation. Because if you really pause, you can find the fun or something powerfully good, even in the midst of those times. Because on 93, you're talking about the mental quicksand. So we also use imperfect past to create a flawed vision of the future. And that's like practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect, because whatever you're perfecting is either going to be imperfect or it's going to be perfect, depending on how you perfect it. And that mental quicksand is like, man, it's a dark cloud. So to come through that, we've read in so many pages about the intentionality. But when you intentionally act upon your dreams, like allow yourself to dream, even if it's what if, even if it's, like if I could, you start to allow yourself to think about it. You'll be amazed at how you naturally attract what you need. And I have found that to be so true in my life. So intentionally pausing, even if it's you find yourself in a negative thought or even in a dream. So now mine is going to be in my someday to do when I think about something in the future, intentionality. So I attract it.
Pausing with the what if, giving yourself that what if grace. So Julianne, bring us.
I just wanted to share a quick story because you had brought up the whole blue camel. I had heard in a seminar, like, the mind doesn't process not, it hears what you're saying, but it doesn't process not. And I'm like, oh, I call that's hooey. That's a bunch of hooey. I blocked myself from that. And it was like 3 months later, I'm driving along on the freeway. I saw a sign that says, don't text and drive. And I was like, oh, who should I be texting? And in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, it's real. It really is real. We think about it, but I didn't process the don't. And so that self-talk is so important. And it's just like, and finding the joy there. Oh gosh, another presenter I'd seen, finding the joy in the hot mess. Wonderful road trip, living out of your RV. You run into Walmart, you come back and all your crap was stolen. Your driver who was driving your RV for you so you can enjoy your vacation stole all your stuff. How do you find the joy in that? His wife was freaking out. And Eric Edmeades, who is he presents, he's an information guy. He was like, pause. I know how to handle this. Let's find the joy in this. She's like, how can you find the joy in all of our stuff? He goes, well, we get to go shopping. Yeah. We have extraordinary financial means. So we don't need to worry about that. And you know what? You wanted to get a new laptop, didn't you? And because all of their electronics everything they had was gone. They got to spend the next 2 weeks unplugged. What a gift.
Yeah, there's always the positive you can find in any situation. There's always the negative. The choice is yours of what you look for. And I love that analogy that the government is so smart that they're putting up signs, don't text and drive, which the subconscious processes differently. What they should be putting is put down your phone. Yeah, it's wild. All right, guys, let me get rid of this recording, shut it down. And by all means, it is Tuesday. So in 28 minutes,